Alrighty, so as usual, this workshop is part of the Australian Federal Government's Digital Solutions Program and is brought to you across Queensland, Northern Territory and Western Australia by Business Station and Treaty Business Consulting. Now, just a bit of webinar housekeeping for you. You will notice that your microphones have been muted. That is for the comfort of the recording, but it is an interactive webinar. So if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat. Or any comments, because I'd love to get those comments and questions answered for you today. You will be receiving a full copy of the recording, so you'll be able to rewatch, and you'll probably feel like you need to, because there's going to be a lot of information in a short period of time. But I do suggest having a notepad and a pencil next to you, or pen next to you. Because if you're like me, I learn by writing things down more effectively than anything else. So that's just a little suggestion there for you. For those of you who don't know me and we haven't met before, my name is Kerrie Savrin. I'm the co-founder of Altitude Business Solutions. We're very proud to be part of the Digital Solutions Program. We've been running these webinars and workshops and having one-on-one sessions with small business owners across Australia for 2.5 years. And it's something that really is in line with our business, and it is a program that we really believe in. Digital health for small business owners is extremely important for you to be able to move forward to sell your business in the future. And so it's really important that you have everything set up correctly. And not only that, but you're guided on how to use it the most effective way. And that's exactly what we do. So that's me in a nutshell. Now, you're in the right place today if you're ready to clear up confusion about blogging and learn about the different types of blogs that you can write. So we're going to be covering a few things today, and I'll just give you a bit of a summary of what you're going to learn. So I'm going to be giving you 16 different blog ideas, okay? One of the number one reasons that people don't start blogging is because they go, I don't know what to write about. So I'm going to give you 16 ideas. When I said I had a lot to get through in an hour, I wasn't joking. So 16 ideas. I'm going to give you a structure on how you should structure your blog and what that blog should actually look like when it is on your website. And I'm going to give you some tips on promoting that blog. So you're going to get an absolute complete plan today. Now, I normally run this as part of a 2-hour workshop. But it's been booked today as a 1-hour webinar. I've got to get it all in an hour. So if I go too fast, don't stress. Remember, you're going to receive a copy of the recording and you'll be able to go through it, and you will receive some additional pieces of information, which I'll mention at the end as well. But please take notes. I do find at this time it's much easier for me if I turn my video off. I do find that Zoom can be a little bit laggy with my video running. So just know that I am still here, even though you can't see me on the screen, and I will pop on every now and again. Now, blogging was supposed to be easy, right? Just, sit down, crack your knuckles and bang out a bit of a blog post, write about what's ever on your mind and on your heart, and do it again. Most people think blogging is going to be easy. You're not going to have any problems, and people are just going to flock to your website to read that blog when you write it. And that may have been the case when blogging first started, because there wasn't many people doing it. But now there are so many people blogging. It's really important that you have a bit of a structure to your blog, and you know that the best tips that you can have to make sure that your blog is a success. Blogging is not as easy as most people think. The writing part itself is a bit of a challenge, yes. Stringing sentences together in a way that make people want to continue to read it can be difficult, particularly if you're thinking about it in the wrong way. Now, what I want to say to you about blogging is I'm going to talk to you today about making it easy, and I'm probably going to change the way you feel about blogging or what you've thought about blogging. One of the hardest parts of blogging is actually knowing what to blog about. Now, this is especially the case if you're trying to use your blog to build a brand, which I'm assuming the majority of people who have registered for this event today are business owners who are wanting to promote their business. So, you can't just sit there and constantly write about what you've been doing in the day. There are blogs out there, and I'm going to mention the word mummy blogger here. Those mummy bloggers are blogging about their day because that is essentially their business. It's what they do with their kids, how they do it, and when they do it. So as you go through, I'm going to hopefully clear up a lot of the things in terms of what you are going to be able to blog about and how easy it's going to be. Christina, I can see that you have your hand up there. So do you have a question that you'd like to ask? I'm just going to allow you to talk. If you have something that you'd like to ask, please ask ahead now.
I was just saying that I agreed with you about blogging for to build the brand.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you're in the right place. So hopefully we'll get all that answered for you today.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're going to make it easy for you to do this blogging business. We're going to be going through 16 different types of blogs. That's going to cure what am I going to blog about? How am I going to blog about it? And then I'm going to talk to you as we go through about the reasons why people continue to read a blog and some of the biggest mistakes that people make. I'm also going to provide you with a bit of an easy to follow framework as well. And I'm going to wrap it all up as quickly as I can and give you the information so that you can come back and re-watch this along with the information that I'll be giving you at the end and actually start your blogging off as quickly as possible. So let's get into it. The first blog type that I'm going to be talking to you about, type number 1, is how-to guides and tutorials. Now, these are some of the most effective blog posts that you can write because they serve a real need that your readers have. So if you think about your ideal customer and the problems that they have, and then make a how-to guide and tutorial written in the form of a blog for that person, that's going to get the most attention. Now, you can understand why this works when you think of how Google works. You need to know how to do something. You go to Google and you type in, how do I write a blog? And all of these different articles come up. Now, the order that those articles in comes down to the structure a little bit as well, and the amount of people that are going to them and the amount of people that are actually not only going to the website, but are also seeing it and it's coming up in searches. But your readers are actually, when they're looking for this type of post, they're looking to you as the expert. And it does a really good job of building your credibility. So if building your credibility and your brand is part of your blog idea of what you might like to do, that's how I like to use my blogs on my website. I like to cement myself as an expert by writing blogs. And I do very similar topics, but answering all different questions so that I try and get the reader's attention as much as I possibly can. Now, some examples of this type of blog post would be how to create a blog. There we go. How to do more push-ups would be for someone in the health industry. How to build a website. How to dress for work. How to build a retaining wall. Now, one thing you'll notice is obviously that all of these titles start with the word how, but essentially these would be the questions that people are typing into Google. So how to build a retaining wall. If I want to know how to build a retaining wall, that's probably exactly the words I'm going to type into Google. So that there is basically the structure for an effective blog title. Think of the question that the person who would be reading it would be answering. Would be asking, and that's how you answer that question. When writing a how-to kind of blog post, it's critical to break things down into really small, simple steps. Don't assume that your readers know what they are doing in any way, shape, or form. When you're an expert in something, it can be really easy to revert back to that whole using acronyms is a really good example. That's one that I wanted to bring up. So we use so many acronyms. We know what they mean because we're an expert in our field, but the reader doesn't necessarily know what they mean. I'll give you a really good example. I had this with myself just recently where I spoke about SEO and I just kept calling it SEO, and I was doing a workshop SEO and someone sent me a private message saying, this may sound like a really stupid question, but I'm sorry, what is SEO? And it just really jolted me, hang on a second, I need to remind myself that I'm the expert in the field. I work with this terminology every day, and I'm talking to somebody who has absolutely no idea. So, you know, in the end, I ended up saying I've been sent a question. It wasn't a silly question at all. I'm sure there were other people on there. So it's essential that you not only break it down step by step, and I always say, and I know it doesn't sound great, but I always say, dumb it down. Like, I want you, your blog, if it's going to be a how-to tutorial, I want you to be able to hand it to a child in year 5 and for them to be able to follow those steps and get the result that they need. So make sure you're breaking it down and it's really making sense for them. That way they'll continue to read it to the end if they can understand it. If they get 2 paragraphs in and you're being too technical and they don't understand what you're talking about, or it doesn't sound like that you were talking to them, they're going to move on. So that's a really key thing with your blog writing. A lot of people get in there and they go, I'm going to write a blog, and they write a university paper. And that is not the way the majority of people read blogs. Blogs need to be written like you're having a conversation with me. So your blogs can be very, very relaxed. They can be like, hey guys, today I wanted to go through the steps on how you make a pumpkin pie. So you want to make the reader feel like you're talking to them in the way that you're writing their words. You want to compel them to continue going. You want to compel them to continue reading. So, you know, if the title of your blog is the question that they are asking, in that first paragraph, it's really great to have some sort of, for them to have kind of a feeling of belonging in that first kind of paragraph. So if that title is how to build a retaining wall, then my opening might be, you're not the only one to wonder, how do you go about building a retaining wall? And today in this blog, we're going to answer those questions for you. So straight away, you're putting me at ease. I'm not the only one who's looking for this, and this is where I'm going to get all of my answers. So that's a little tip for you there as well. So that is blog post number 1, how-to guides and tutorials. Blog post number 2 is news and current events. Now, this can be a really good one, and you'll notice that, I mean, obviously news.com.au, they do this, they write articles / blogs about things that are happening around the world. But if you can do the same thing, a very similar thing with maybe important stuff to do with your business, and I'm just going to give an example of, maybe you work in the building industry and there's been a legislation change in terms of building construction. Okay, so try and give lots of different examples in these. So this is something that you might want to know. And you know, the question that I would be asking Google would be, what are the changes to the building legislation, or something along those lines. So that would be my title, and then I would go into really dumbing it down, you know, particularly legislation. While we're actually going through this, guys, I'd really like you guys to go into the chat for me and just tell me what type of business you have, because then I can sort of give my examples around some of your businesses as well, which will make it really easy for me. So if you're trying to break down legislation, I used to work in the real estate industry. So there was, you know, that was quite legislated, and the wording in a lot of those contracts is so complicated that people don't understand. They don't understand what they're reading. They don't understand what they're signing. So I would write blog posts on my website that I had then that would say, you know, changes in the current contracts. And then I would say change number 1, point 1, and I'd actually have the wording from the contract. And then I go, basically what that means is this, and I dumb it down. So it was a step-by-step kind of, this is the change. This is what that actually means in language that we can all understand. So a blog post, a news and current affairs blog post, it's important that you're not just regurgitating the same information. Okay, so we don't want it to just be a copy of the information that's been putting out there. We want to put our own spin on it. And we want to really make sure that they're getting the information in as simple way as possible, but in our own words as well. So highlighting relevant things to them is really important. It's important, as I just said, I'm just looking at my notes here. It's important that you put your own spin on it. You know, this is I love this picture. You want to stand out as being a little bit unique. These are all of the articles out there about that particular subject, and this is you in the red. You want to put your own spin on it. So don't just regurgitate, you know, thoughtfully interact with what's happening in your own kind of way. So it's critical to keep your readers in mind that you're not just simply talking about things that interest you. when you're writing a blog about news and current events. It should be of crucial relevance to them as well. So people always ask when they're reading a blog, what's in it for me, even though you don't realize that you're asking that question. So why does it matter to them is a really important thing to cover, and what effect will it have on their everyday lives? Why should they care about this particular news item? So if I stick with my example of the legislation changing in the real estate industry, why does it matter to them? Because it's important that you understand all of any contract that you are signing when purchasing a property. So these would be really great titles to actually have within your blog. You know, how will it affect your everyday life? Well, if you're not buying property, it's not going to affect you at all. But if you are someone who is purchasing for investment purposes or for your primary place of residence, then you need to know what these changes mean for you. Why should they care about this particular news item? Because with the new legislation changes, it means that you can no longer do A, B, or C. The new legislation changes restrict you from doing this. So really, really giving them all of the information that you can is important when you're sharing news stories. When they hear news stories over traditional media, and when I talk about traditional media, I'm really referring to like news, being on the news. They literally have 30 seconds to try and get at all of the information. And we all know the media, they go for the bad things first and they can freak people out. In the real estate industry, that happened a couple of years ago with all the changes that were happening with the rental, being able to rent properties, and people were freaking out about it. Really, they were very mild changes. They didn't affect most people anyway, and we've all been able to move on. So it's important that you cure their fears, uncertainties, and doubts, and write the blog in a way that they can really understand. So there's some tips for you as well. Blog post type number 3, controversy. Now, it's no secret that controversy sells. There's a reason that people love to read the tabloids, and that, as I said, reporters are always chasing controversial subjects. If you're smart, you can use controversy to your advantage when it comes to blogging. So consider writing about a controversial subject within your industry. These types of posts on social media as well, when you are sharing these blogs, are guaranteed to get interest in readers, because it's something that's happening, right at the moment. You would agree when the coronavirus pandemic first started that we were all interested in the information that was out there about it. And now we've sort of had a little bit of overload, haven't we? We've had a little bit of overload in terms of hearing about that subject. It's no longer critical news for the majority of us. So it's important that if there's controversy out there and you want to share it, that you share it in a way that grabs people's attention. And from a social media perspective, that blog title might just be something like how the legislation changes are affecting me, or the everyday person, or something along those lines. So notice that I did say there within your industry. I will just say, I want you to, if there's, controversy all over the news every day, but if it's not relevant to your industry, or you can't put a spin on it so it's relevant to your industry, don't bother writing about it, because it just, avoid it. Just write anything that's a little bit controversial in your industry, but don't worry about anything else. Your goal is not to become a tabloid. Your goal is still to be informational and educational, or maybe a bit of entertaining. And you're simply just going to use a controversial subject to be able to achieve that. So that makes it easy. You don't want to alienate your readers by driving them away with your opinions either. So just make sure that if you are talking about a controversial subject, particularly, I know the ones that we don't talk about at the moment, you've got your religion, you've got your climate change, or they say don't talk about these things at weddings or Christmas. You've got your religion, you've got your climate change, vaccination, I think probably needs to go on the table at the moment as well. So there are those subjects that you really don't want to write about. Now, one of the simple formulas that allows you to write about controversial subjects really easily is the this versus that formula. And you would have seen a lot of these blog posts yourself. Okay, so here's some examples of a this versus that formula that you could use for this kind of controversial blog writing. So Mac versus PC, the health benefits of coffee versus tea, keto versus intermittent fasting, MailChimp versus ConvertKit. So again, these could be really great titles if people are looking at comparing one thing to another. The controversy may very well be the latest product that has come out. And so you're going to, what they announced on the news today was that Mac is bringing out a new computer or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe PC is bringing out a new version and it's absolutely going to show Mac what it's all about. So that's that can be a really good way to deal with a controversy subject. It's called the this versus that formula. Blog post type number 4 is checklist. Again, we all love a checklist. You would have seen these around. We're forgetful. It's why we use checklists. Checklists help us to remember everything we need to about a particular subject. We use them to help us remember what to take on vacation, how to get specific projects done, and they even use them in the operating room to ensure that everything runs smoothly. So we love a good checklist. Now, checklist blog posts, say that fast 5 times, can be really valuable to your readers. You can really help them remember everything they need to around a given subject. For example, let's say that you're in the photo industry. You could create a checklist / blog post of everything that needs to be taken to a photo shoot. So if I look at some of the examples in here, Christina, tourism, you've got there. If it was in relation to travel, you could write a blog post on, the 17 things you must pack in your bag when going on holidays. The health and wellness industry, Amy, it could be the top 15 things that you're going to introduce in 2022 to change your life, to increase your health. So you would have seen these types of posts around. What I will say with a checklist is people actually use them and they print them out and they actually do check them off. One of the ones that I just did recently, somebody just shared a post on social media. I think it might have been on Facebook. And it was a cleaning checklist. And it was a whole entire year of what you should clean each month to clean, essentially, thoroughly clean your house for the whole entire year. Before children, 19 years ago now for me, I used to do a deep clean of my house once a year. I no longer have the time to put into that. I'm going to do 3 weeks, a deep clean of my house. It was just me and my husband. It was nice and easy. When you introduce additional people, it becomes, a little bit more stressful. So seeing this checklist for me was great. I've entered that checklist into my electronic diary and I'm committing to doing those things each and every month. By the time I get to the end of the year, my whole entire house will be deep cleaned. So people love a good checklist. I love this image that's on the screen at the moment because this is really tells you a bit of a story about a blog post. So, you can have good information, helpful information, useful information, successful, bold, and popular information. But really, it's a crossover of all of those things is where the reader actually sees value. And this is not just the case in blog posting, but this is the case in anything that you're providing to your customers and clientele. So this is where the sweet spot is. You want the information that you're sharing to be helpful and useful. You want them to be successful when they do it. You want it to be good information, popular, etc. But you need to have a little bit of all of that. And that's where somebody will see value. So that's a really good slide. I love using that one. Now, to create the perfect checklist, take a common task in your industry or in your world and make your checklist very thorough and complete. So you're breaking it down as simply as possible. You're breaking it down into steps. You're saying do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and make sure that it's very clear. You could also offer a downloadable here as well. So you could, yes, have the checklist in the form of a blog post, but you could also create a downloadable sheet so that rather than people printing that out, you could say something like, enter your email address below and we'll email you the checklist in full. So you could put that in the bottom. So what are you doing there? You're building your email list. So you're using your blog post to build your email list. So that is, that's really key. Blog post number 5 is Listicles. Now you may not have heard of this one before, but we love a list. As we were just saying, we love a checklist. Magazines are constantly publishing articles like 10 ways to lose weight, or 10 ways to lose that stubborn belly fat, 5 ways to be happier now. Lists are really quick and easy to skim. So if I am searching for something, if I type in how to build a retaining wall, going back to that example I used earlier, and I get the 5 ways to build a retaining wall in one afternoon, I'm going to click on that. Absolutely, I am. I am time poor. The majority of people are time poor. If I can absorb and get information in a shorter period of time, then I'm going to take that. That is why people love platforms like TikTok. If I can learn it in 30 seconds rather than 3 hours, I'm going to take that way. They make us feel like we're taking a lot of information in when there's those points. That's why people normally like them. There's nothing quite as satisfying as just sort of scanning over a list and being able to learn something. And they make it really easy to break down the big picture of what you're trying to tell somebody. So some examples here, you can see 27 ways to build your email list, 9 easy ways to generate leads, 7 ways to burn fat and get shredded, 19 ways to overcome the fear of public speaking. What's really interesting about all of these examples that you are seeing on the screen here is you'll notice they are all odd numbers. Now, statistics show that we believe odd numbers more often than we do even numbers. I know you're all saying, how do they know this stuff? They use eye tracking devices, they do all sorts of things. But statistics show that if there is a blog post that says 26 ways to quickly build your email list, and there is one that says 25 ways to build your email list, the majority of people will click on 25 because they feel it's more believable. Just don't even get me started. I don't know why. You might, that's why you see 101 ways to build your email list. We don't necessarily believe 100 for some reason. It's interesting. We are drawn to odd numbers. So there's a tip for you on that one there. Use an odd number. Blog post number 6 is a case study. Now, this can be a really interesting one if you're someone that provides services. So, Amy, for you working in the health and wellness industry, this might be something that you would like to consider. Case studies are incredibly valuable to the readers for several reasons. Now, firstly, they let the readers see what's going on behind the scenes because you're going to tell them a whole entire case studies. They love being taken on a behind the scenes journey, okay? So you're giving them a look at how things work in your business, or you're showing them the inner workings of your business, which can really provide valuable insight for your readers. Second, they provide valuable lessons regarding how you achieved your success or how your client achieved your success. And I'll give you some examples. So let's say, for example, Amy, I'll use you as an example. Let's say you worked with a client and they just wanted to introduce some healthy habits into their life, like exercise. You could write a blog about the journey of that client. Now, I'm not expecting you to disclose any information about that client. And I always just ask my client, look, I'm going to remove your name and nobody will know it was you, but I'm going to use your journey as an example in a blog post on my website because it's just been so great. So, you'd say when Sarah came to us, like many, she was feeling lethargic, not sleeping very well, and had no energy whatsoever. She wanted to set herself a task of introducing more exercise, and we took her through this journey. She started exercising on a Monday only, then we introduced Wednesdays, then we introduced Fridays, And by the end of the 7 weeks, she was exercising 3 times a week. She'd increased her energy. She'd lost a few kilos, and the benefits were amazing. So what you're doing there is you're giving people a story, which is really great to read. People love success stories, absolutely. But you're also saying, this is how we work with clients. You know, another way of advertising this type of thing would be able to, you know, would be to say, we give one-on-one coaching on increasing your energy levels. You know, that would be a way of advertising that. But to tell it in a story, it really does sell much better when you're able to say, you know, Sarah had this issue. We took her through our signature program, which was increase your energy levels with exercise. And she came out the other end, not only with more energy, but a little bit of weight loss and this as well. So you're pointing out she achieved what she wanted to, and she got extra benefits as well. So storytelling is a really great way to be able to write a blog. What happens when people read this type of blog is they get a little bit emotional. Okay, so they sort of go, they have an aha moment when they read these, and they go, oh, and this can really prompt them to take action. So what I mean by that is they're reading it and they go, oh my God, that sounds amazing. When you finish any type of story blog, it is so very important that you have a call to action at the bottom of it. You know, if this sounds like you and you'd like to know more information on our 10 days to success plan or whatever it is that you're selling, please enter your email here. And they enter their email address in, so they instantly get some sort of information on that course that you offer and what they need to do to become part of it. So story blog writing can really compel somebody to take action and want to do something. Blog post type number 7, profiles and interviews. Now, this can be an interesting one because it allows your readers to become familiar with important people in your industry. It allows the readers to learn valuable insights and expert secrets. You know, and people ask the question, what's the difference between a profile and an interview? So I'll go through that a little bit. So in a profile, you're simply highlighting a person without actually interviewing them. You've never seen them face to face. So, you know, in the health and wellness industry, Amy, there might be somebody who has maybe a celebrity that's recently lost a lot of weight. And as an example, I'm thinking of Chrissy Swan. She comes to my mind. She's had, you know, and we've also had Rebel as well, who's also lost a lot of weight in the last 12 months and looked after her health, done it healthily. Both ladies have done it in a way where they've done it over 12 months. So this could just be somebody that you're just profiling. You know, it was really great to be able to watch the journey of them going through. If you're going to use any sort of photos of celebrities in your blog post, please make sure you credit the photographer. And refer to the article where that came from. That way you'll be covering yourself. So, you know, you need to think about why you're profiling this person. So why do you want your readers to know about this person? Are they going to, you know, are they disrupting your industry? You know, so, you know, is it relevant to your industry? You know, sometimes they've written a book or they've bought out a program or, you know, something along those lines as well. But, you know, if it's relevant to your industry and you can profile somebody, then please do. An interview is where you are actually meeting the person and you're directly asking that question, but you're writing it in a blog. So if you were to say to somebody, maybe even one of your clients, you know, you may even want to do a blog post interview on Sarah, who has done such a great job with her exercise. You know, you would have a series of questions. Think about the questions that your reader would be asking and ask those questions. So it allows you to get much more up close and personal with them, but you can just ask them a series of questions and turn it into a blog. So that can be a really great way of writing a blog post as well. It's a little bit out of the box ideas for you today, but something a little bit different. Number 8, I'm just conscious of time, 10:34. I've been talking like a mad woman. Let's see if we can get through it all. The Expert Roundup. This is a great one. So an expert Roundup is like an interview on steroids. So basically it involves asking a common question or a set of questions to a group of experts. So if we are looking at, I'm just looking at what's Fiona do here. Fiona, helping children be inclusive of kids with medical needs. Okay, this is a really great one. So you might ask this 5 questions of the same experts. So you might have one expert might be a nutritionist. Okay, so there might be a nutritionist that you would ask 5 questions to. And then there might also be like a personal trainer who works with kids with medical needs. And you would ask them the same 5 questions. So you're getting, and those questions might be something like, you know, what are the importance on activity, you know, children with special needs having activity in their lives. So, you know, and you know, our doctor said, a pediatrician said this, and our healthcare expert said this, and our personal trainer said this, our psychologist said this. So this is a really good example for you guys, because as you would understand, each one of those experts is going to have a slightly different opinion. So it might be that the psychologist says, you know, exercise can have an amazing effect on the child's mental health. They will be in a better mood. They will love doing it. They love the interaction. Where the personal trainer might say what's really great about exercise for kids with medical needs is it gets them using those muscles that they don't normally use. And while it puts them outside of their comfort zone, they feel very accomplished when they've done it. So each one of those experts will have a slightly different answer to that same question. So these expert roundup kind of blog posts can be really cool. You don't need to have a lot of experts. You can just have 1 or 2. But the goal is to gather as much expert advice on a single topic as possible and bring it all together in one location. So in the case of that example for you there, Fiona, the actual blog post might be the effects of exercise on children with medical needs. And then you would have your experts actually sort of, you know, coming in on that, on what they have to say with those questions. So here's some examples, some more examples. You could be asking an email marketing expert about, thief, it's supposed to be their favorite hack. You see a spelling mistake there. Their favorite hack for growing their email list. You could ask a weight loss expert what their exercise they recommend for losing weight. You can ask a tax expert what the #1 overlooked tax deduction is. So these are just one-off questions. So don't be afraid to bring an expert, just one expert, into any blog post that you're writing. You know, to get more clarity on this, we asked Suzanne, you know, get together with your local bookkeeper. We asked Suzanne from Suzanne's Bookkeeping, what's the #1 overlooked tax deduction when it comes to small business? And you're just bringing her in as a bit of an expert and a bit of a guest blog post writer on there as well. Now, experts roundup, they can have a much greater chance of going viral than a standard kind of blog post. And why is this? Well, firstly, because they're normally kind of naturally written in a bit of a listicle format. So they're really easy for people to read. And second, because you're combining so much value into one single blog post. And you will have those experts, you know, if you have 3 experts, you can guarantee that each one of those 3 experts is going to be sharing that blog post out on their social media because they're building credibility for themselves. You know, here's a blog post written by this person where we were called in as the expert on talking about kids doing exercise with medical needs. So, you know, they're going to want to push that out as well. So they have a greater chance of getting a little bit of traction for you. So I always look at, if I'm in a room of people and I'm networking, I'm going around meeting people to think, well, who could I possibly bring in as a bit of an expert on one of my blog posts? You know, how could we make this work? Blog post type #9, we're getting there. Reviews and comparisons. So when you're looking to buy a product, maybe you're on Amazon. If you're like most people, the first thing you probably do is look at reviews, right? I mean, I know I do. Regardless of whether it's on Amazon or what, you want to buy a product or you want to use a service, you pretty much, if there's reviews there, you want to go and read those reviews. We want to see what others thought about the product or the service before we purchase it. This is called social proofing. So it's where, somebody else has used that service and they've really had a great experience, so I probably will too. So we also, in relation to comparisons, we might have some questions that we want to have answered to the product as well. So reviews are an incredibly important part of the purchase process for the majority of people who are purchasing online. And this is why it's really important, if your website is not set up, to have the product and then have something like, hear what, at the bottom, see what others are, read what others are saying about this product, or see what others are saying about our services. They're really unsure of, whether they're going to move forward or not. Sometimes that's the thing that actually cements them. It helps them to make educated decisions regarding their product or service that they're looking at buying. And it can sometimes push them over the edge. So reviews and comparisons, in discussing a review, you can discuss the pros and cons of something as well. So this is a blog post that you could write, or an example of blog post that you could write would be a pros and cons of a single product. And you may have seen this around quite a bit as well. So if your goal is to provide your readers with a thorough understanding of how the product works, its advantages, the specifics of a product, or whether or not it is recommended, you're essentially, giving it a bit of a review. And you can do that by going through and doing the comparison blog post there, all the pros and cons. So what are the pros of doing this, and what are the cons of doing this? What are the pros of using this product? What are the cons of using this product? Being devil's advocate can work really well on a blog post when it comes to people purchasing things, because it shows that you're being open and honest. So, the pros of exercise are that it's going to make you feel good, you're going to get better sleep, and you're going to get this. The cons would be you have to find 45 minutes a day to be able to do it. You need to find that time to be able to do it. That's a bit of a con there. So you're being open and honest about the cons, and people find it much more believable when you do that. Blog post number 10, the Resource Roundup. So many resources are available on the internet that it can be really overwhelming to try and find what you're looking for. With millions of new resources being published each day, finding the best can seem next to impossible. So this is why a Resource Roundup blog post can be so helpful to readers. Some examples, you could create a blog post in which you link to the best blog posts, videos, and podcasts related to search engine optimization. Now, I mention this one because I'm in this industry, okay? This best blog post, videos, podcasts, that's me. That's my world. That's my digital world, okay? But I'm not an expert in every single corner of my world. So I might find some really great YouTube videos or etc. And I can write an article that could be the top 3 resources on search engine optimization. And I might say, I'm going to go and find the best written blog post. I'm going to find the best and easiest to watch YouTube video. It doesn't even have to be mine. I'm cementing myself as an expert by actually using others. And people are afraid to do this kind of blog post, but it can work really successfully. Because it's kind of a complete blog post. And, the examples that you are giving are not biased in any way, because it's not about you. It's about, if you're really looking for a step-by-step on how you can increase your search engine optimization on your website, we suggest you either A, read the blog below, written by such and such, because he's amazing and he knows what he's talking about. B, watch this YouTube video, which I found, which is amazing and really simplifies it for you. Or C, listen to this podcast that I found all about SEO and the importance of making sure your website is sorted. That's cementing yourself as an expert by recommending others. It's a crazy way of doing things, but it actually works well. It will be a well-rounded blog post. And, you might even say, if you're like me, one of the hardest things about search engine optimization is finding the best person to teach you the information. And we've rounded up 3 of the best for you today. So you're sort of saying, in my field as an expert, these are the guys that I would turn to. So you could create a post in which you link to the best keto recipes. So if you're health and wellness industry for you, Amy, this might be something where you go, if keto is a thing for you. You don't necessarily have to be the person to write those recipes. You just need to write a blog post saying, you know, the best keto recipes on chicken, or I don't know, whatever. You could, you know, niche it down a little bit and then actually link to somebody else's recipe. There's no harm in doing that. Link to the best blog posts, podcasts, and videos related to Facebook marketing. So you can see I spoke about this just before, blog posts, podcasts, videos. So when I write my blog post now, and I'm going back and adjusting all of my blog posts, I write the blog post in 1 week. In the next week, I film a YouTube video about it. And in the following week, I actually do a podcast about that same subject. And then on that blog post page, the YouTube video and the podcast end up on that blog post. So when I send it out to people via my email, the whole tagline I'm using now is, you know, read, watch, or listen to our thoughts on this subject this week. Some people are very time poor. I know I am. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So if someone had a podcast on the subject, I'd be there. I'm not going to watch a YouTube video on some things, on other things I will. And I'm probably going to read a blog post if I'm in a position where I can't listen or watch to it, if I'm honest. So when I go to a blog post and that person's got the YouTube video and the podcast, they've won me. That I'm doing one of those things. So that can be a really great way as well. These kind of blog posts tend to get shared a lot on social media. So, you know, it's kind of with this kind of expert advice, you know, linking to things, people see a lot of value in it. So they quite often will share it on social media and go, this was really great, a really great read. People share to themselves now. It's actually something that I'm starting to ask my audience to do. Share this with yourself to keep it in a safe place, or share this with yourself so you can refer to it later. Just a little bit of a tip there for you with social media. Number 11, I've got 5 to go. I've got, about 13 minutes. A behind the scenes or a day in the life. If you've got a sizable audience, there's a good chance that they want to know what a day in the life is like for you. They want to go behind the scenes of your business and see how you do things, and they want to learn from you and see what things are like from your vantage point. So doing a behind the scenes or a day in the life blog post can be a really great way to just introduce yourself to your audience, because people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So this is giving them the opportunity to get to know, like, and trust you. So you could do, you could chronicle every moment of the day, depending on what industry you're in. You know, what is your morning routine? What sort of meetings do you have today? What strategies you use to be productive? What interactions with your team or clients or customers look like? What do you do to unwind? So each one of those represents a different part of the day and could essentially be a different blog post. So, you know, as a creative arts professional, Beth, this is what your morning routine looks like. Or as a creative arts professional, here's some strategies that I use to be more productive throughout the day. I know that that's a real struggle for people who are creative, is being productive. Don't worry about that. I'm good with that. So a little bit of behind the scenes can be really great blog posts for you to write as well. Blog post number 12 is the data-backed post. So this will be great for those people who love numbers. So blog posts that are heavily data-driven are backed by research. They're an outstanding way to position yourself as an expert. They can generate a significant amount of traffic because they're often quoted with other blog posts and other people. You know, so a lot of people can link to them as well, so they can be accessible in that way. If you're seeking to establish yourself as a thought leader and an industry expert, you should dedicate a little bit of time to writing a blog post that is backed by data. So I'm just in the process of actually doing a data blog post at the moment, which is a 2021 roundup of social media. So I'm getting my information from somewhere, of course, which I will refer to, that allows people to click through. But I'm just basically, the report is 25 pages long, and I'm just literally going to break that report down into easy, very easy to read kind of statistics that people understand, but also have the link there to the full report as well. So they're really good at, these are really great at actually cementing you as an expert in your field, because it shows that you are actually watching the trends. Data-backed posts, blog posts, aren't necessarily easy to write. You heard me just say, I'm still working on one. I think I've been working on it for 3 weeks. They require data, which sometimes for me, like the end of year data takes a little while to come out. You have to get that data from somewhere. If you're a business that maybe refers to the census, is another one that a lot of people refer to, or the ATO as well. If you're a bookkeeper, that can be another one where you can get information. But because you do have to do a lot of research, it's going to take a little bit of time. Now, you can actually do the research yourself. It takes a lot of time and effort, but normally this is what most bloggers do, that they will actually, have the ability to conduct a bit of in-depth research and then release that research as a blog post. Secondly, you can also rely upon somebody to do it for you. So these are the kind of posts that you could have somebody else do the research for you. If you're looking at having a blog post written, you're looking at anywhere from about $350 to $500, and that content creator will actually create the content, write the blog, and do all the research for you. So if you want to invest in that in once a year, then you can definitely do that. So that's where I always say, you're either going to be burning time or money, one of the two, in doing that one there. Blog post number 13. We up to? Let me see here. Here we go. Sorry, I had a little moment, didn't press the right button. Blog post type number 13, inspirational stories. Again, this is nearly like what we were talking about earlier, but people absolutely love inspirational stories. It's why millions of people visit websites like Upworthy each month. If you haven't been to Upworthy, go along and have a look there. We love to feel inspired to do more. Inspirational posts, blog posts will inspire people to take action. So a call to action is very important. But we love to hear stories of people who have overcome odds and tales of those who have accomplished great things despite maybe facing obstacles in their life to be able to do so. We love reading those stories. So if you have an inspirational story yourself, consider turning it into a blog post. I know sometimes it's difficult to write about yourself, but it really is cool when you get your own story out there. There's a good chance that it will go viral because there's a lot of kind of emotion behind it, and people see the authenticity of it that they like. And it can generate a lot of social shares when you share your story about, what's happened in your life. There's one thing that you must consider before you write an inspirational blog post is, what is the point of your inspirational post? In other words, what exactly are you trying to accomplish with it? Yes, you're trying to inspire others. That's an absolute given. But how will the inspirational blog help you achieve your business objectives? So by putting your story out there, what are you trying to do? Sometimes when you're putting an inspirational story out there, it cements you as an expert, because especially if it's a fail inspirational story, what I call them, because if you can tell a story about how you tragically failed at something and how you turned it around, then you're showing people that I know what I'm talking about, because I went and this is what happened to me and I don't want it to happen to anybody else. So I made it my mission. I'll give you an example. In 2010, I went and had my first spray tan. I know it's a while ago now, we're talking 11 years ago. I went and had my first spray tan, never had a spray tan before. I'd lost a lot of weight in a weight loss competition, and my trainer recommended before you have your last photos, go and get a spray tan. So I went to my local shopping centre and I got myself a spray tan, and I felt amazing when I had it done, you know, the normal sticky and all the rest of it. And I walked back to and as I'm walking through the shopping centre, people are looking at me, and I could see them looking at me. And I said to myself, I must look really tanned. You know, I must look like I have just been at the beach, been on holiday. You know, people are just like, whoa, she's got a spray tan. Like, that's what I thought, because that's how I felt. I felt like I was white, and the next minute I was like so tanned. But they weren't looking at me for that. They were looking at me because the spray tan technician had not told me that, you know how they put a little cap on your head when you get your spray tan done? And they're so light. They use them a lot in the food industry as well. They're so light. It's quite easy to forget and not even feel that you have one on your head. I walked the entire kilometre length that this shopping centre is. It's known for being a kilometre long, from one end of that shopping centre to the other, with this hideous cap thing on my head. She let me walk out of there with the cap. So that was the first thing that I was like, right. Second thing, I was given no care instructions on what to do with my tan afterwards, or the expectation of how long it would last. And the third thing was, the next day, it wasn't actually tan. I was completely orange. It was the worst tan that I ever had. Because I went through that experience, it inspired me, and I started my own mobile spray tanning business. People no longer had to go to the shopping centres to get their spray tans. I would come to their home and I would spray tan them in their own environment with my own tent and do everything for them. I would give them a care package when they were done, explaining what they needed to do over the next 14 days for the longevity of their tan. And they certainly wouldn't be walking a kilometre through a shopping centre with a cap on their head. So that kind of sort of post there, about a blog post about an inspirational story that got me to take action, is doing two things. It's telling people that as a spray tan technician, you're going to get everything that you need when you get a spray tan from me. This is the reason why I do it. I give really good customer service and I come to your home. But I'm not saying that with a sign that's saying, you know, buy from me or book me, because this is what I do. So it can be a really great way to generate some business. Blog post number 14, frequently asked questions. Guys, I'm probably going to go about 5 minutes over today, just looking at my timing, so I do apologize for that. There are certain questions for you that would come up over and over again, you know, the same ones that get asked by every client. So actually having a frequently asked questions blog or a frequently asked questions page, I don't mind what you do. We've got frequently asked questions on the home page that people ask us all the time. That way you can give really in-depth and defined answers to those questions before somebody books your services. So in creating your frequently asked question blog post, try to be thorough and answer as many questions as you possibly can. Your goal is to create a resource of which you can send people. And, you know, when somebody says, look, I'm considering getting this service from you, you can have a chat to them and say, look, I'd love to be able to work from you. What if I just take your email address? I'm just going to send you a link of a blog post that I wrote that answers the most common questions that people have. Doesn't that kind of go, oh, wow, you know, like, I mean, even if you didn't email them, you know, even if you were talking to them on the phone and say, hey, look, when I hang up, I'm actually going to text you a link to a blog post that I wrote that's going to answer every single question about that particular product. And hopefully cure your fears, uncertainties, and doubts. And if after reading that, you'd like to do business with me, I'd love to have a chat with you. So it really cements you as an expert, and it's giving them a call to action as well. If you don't like creating one long frequently asked questions document, you could write a series of blog posts which answer, you know, one question. It doesn't have to be, you know, one blog post per question if you really want it to be. When I think about the questions or the topics that I'm going to use, the headings I'm going to use, using when, where, how, and why is a really, you know, even who, what, where, and why, you know, they're the ones that will get some really great traction as well. Blog post number 15 is the top takeaways. The top takeaway blog posts are which you write about your topic, your top takeaways from something, such as a book or a podcast or maybe a conference or a movie. You know, Amy, if there was a health and wellness conference and you went to it, you could say, here's my thoughts on or, you know, here were the best things to come out of this latest conference that I went to. Again, it's cementing you as an expert because you're telling people I've gone along to the conference and I've built up my knowledge base on this subject, and you're also giving it to them. People will see these kind of posts as being very valuable. You're providing a valuable resource to your readers with this kind of blog post. And again, blog posts are a way for you to be able to share information on a regular basis with your clientele as well. You could be introducing them to something that they've never thought of before, or you could be telling them that based on going to this conference, you're going to introduce a new service. And so those sort of blog posts work well. Number 16, the beginner's guide. Oh, I love these. These posts are sort of like how-to posts, but they're geared specifically towards beginners. You know, they teach newbies in your industry valuable insights that they wouldn't have and skills that they need to learn. So some examples of this are a beginner's guide to lead generation, a newbie's guide to a running marathon, a beginner's guide to email marketing, a beginner's, oh, nice spelling mistake there, guide to social media. So you can see if you were a beginner in the industry and you searched a guide for social media and a beginner's guide came up, you're like, that's for me. So don't be afraid to write blog posts specifically for your beginners, because a beginner's guide, when done really well, can be an incredibly valuable resource to those who are just getting started. And, you know, blog posts really, a lot of people, I haven't had this question asked yet today, but normally I get asked, aren't you giving out heaps of information and, you know, you're not really going to get anything back? I really work my business. If you haven't read the book by Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, Jab, 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 Hook, he talks about give before you actually get anything back, basically, or before you ask for the business. So I'm all about giving. So that's where I get that now. So, I ran through that so quickly. This is why you probably need a notepad and refer to the actual recording, because guys, this is normally a 2-hour workshop. So I normally go over that 2 hours. So you're getting a lot of value here today. So now what? You've got great topics, but you're still confused about, I don't really know where to start. And that's okay, because along with the recording of this session, I'm going to give you a really valuable bonus. I'm going to give you a complete blog planning sheet. Now, this will really help you out by asking you questions and giving you a step-by-step process to write your blog. You know, we'll answer questions like, how many words does my blog post need to be, and how do I optimize it for SEO? How do I lay it out on my website so that most people get it? This is what it's going to look like. It's your blog plan. It's going to ask you a series of questions as you go through. There is a checklist of the things that you need to create. And then at the very end, there is a blog layout structure. So this is what we recommend. And this changes. If you've been to this webinar before, last year in June, I think we run it, you will notice that the blog layout structure has changed because the game has changed a little bit. So we have now put all of the things in there based on the current stats and what's happening. So you will have a plan where you can print this out and you can answer all of these questions, and it will help you write your blog post. You'll have a checklist of the things that you need to do to promote that blog post. And with those things that you've created, you'll be able to have the right structure on your website, and it explains it all to you there, so you can get the best out of your blog post. So covering the what to blog about is where I spend the majority of my time, because it's easy for me to provide you with something like this to be able to add it in. In fact, I might be able to actually put it in the chat right now for those people that are here. I've never used this, this feature before. Here we go. It is just currently loading in there. There we go. It's in the chat, guys. I managed to do it. So I will make sure it is attached with the recording of this audio as well. For those of you that have registered, but I just put it in the chat. So if you want to download it straight away and you want to get started, then that might be what you might like to do directly after this as well. Now, there's been no questions. I've done a lot of talking today. I've been like a little chipmunk for the last hour. If you have any questions, it's not too late to pop them into the chat for me and I will get them answered to you. Oh, you can't see it in the chat. Okay. I will just email it to you. Thanks, Fiona. There must be an issue there. I thought I was being so very clever. Sorry, I'm not being very clever at all. It's showing me, but it's not showing you guys. So that's not very good. I'll make sure that I send it in the email, which I'll send after this as well. So if you have any questions, guys, pop them into the chat for me. I'm just going to run through a couple of things to finish off now. Our next free webinar is traffic generation tips for your small business website. So this is basically how do you now get people to your blog post? How do you now get people to your website? It is on Wednesday, the 2nd of February. Can you believe it's February already? I certainly can't. And of course, Western Australia, 8 a.m, Northern Territory, 9:30, and Queensland, 10 a.m. So, I can see a little question in the question box. I hope that hasn't been there for ages. So from Amy, would you say blogging is a written format of lives or reels? This is a really good question, actually, Amy, because this probably answers the process that I take with all of this kind of stuff. So the first thing I do is I write a blog. That's step one. I write a blog on a particular subject, and I normally like to have 3 key points on that blog. And then from there, I normally post that onto my website. Then, saying to you the following week, I then normally film a YouTube video. So it's a video of me talking, sometimes with a bit of a slideshow with stuff coming up on the screen, talking about that blog post. So today I'm going to talk to you about X. And I go through that whole entire blog post. And then I take the audio from that recording and I actually turn that into a podcast. So I don't actually redo a podcast, but you can do. Your short form lives or reels on Instagram and TikTok, the 3 points that are in the blog, they're the things that I do the 3 short videos on. So every blog post that I write gives me 3 short form videos. So we are starting in February. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Writing a blog post once a week. We've normally only done one once a month, but we're going to go to once a week and see how we go, see if it improves our traction or not. But of course, that will mean we will have a YouTube video once a week. We will have essentially 3 TikToks or reels that'll be going out over the week as well. So for me, yes, a blog post is where it all starts, and then that kind of goes through. And obviously I share that blog post on social media, both Instagram, Facebook, and Google My Business as well. And it's something that you can constantly talk about down the track and reuse. So, I quite often will going back to my old blog posts that I wrote 2 years ago, updating them, putting a little thing at the bottom saying this was originally written in September 2019 and was updated in 2021, filming a new video, doing a new thing on it, and doing the whole process over again. So I'm just essentially regurgitating the same information a little bit differently, or updating it, which is really cool as well. So thank you for asking that question. The link to our next, somebody's also sent me a message about the link to our next webinar. There it is in the chat there. Hopefully you can all see that one, and I haven't stuffed that one up, but that's the link for you to be able to go through and book in for that next traffic generating. Remember, these are free, all of these webinars for you guys to attend. Now, obviously you've still can't see it. Well, it has to be me. What's going on here? Oh, here we go. There we go. Can you see it now? I don't use Zoom every day. Of course, I should know how to do these things. Excellent. Let's see if I can get that file in there again for you now as well. Now that I can see what I had done, it actually, for some reason, was just literally sending it to myself. So not sending it to everyone. So there we go. Hopefully you should see that that blog post structure there as well, coming into it. But if you guys have come to this webinar based on, through businessstation.com.au, there's option for you guys in Western Australia, Northern Territory and Queensland. You can have up to 7 hours of mentorship for just $44. So I always recommend people come to these webinars and workshops and they go, yes, this is something that I'm going to do. And then have an hour with an expert to talk through, this was my first blog post. This is what I was going to do. Is this right? Can you help me? How do I create graphics? What do I do? Where do I share it? And in that hour, we get it all sorted for you. For $44, you get that 3 hours with an expert. And then we'll also say to you something like, you really need to do this workshop with this expert. So we'll recommend other experts that are in the program as well. So if you haven't done so already, you can go to businessstation.com.au. And if you'd specifically like to book a one-on-one session with me, I'm very happy to have you along. Then just put /Kerrie, that's Kerrie at the end. And that will get you through to being able to book in with me directly. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. You've got, 2 hours worth of content in 1 hour and 10 minutes today. I've really compacted it down for you. I'd love for you to connect with me over socials. I am moving away from some of the platforms and just moving into TikTok, Clubhouse. For those of you that are on there, I do go on Clubhouse quite often, YouTube, and then we have our website as well. I'd love to be able to connect with you there. But I want to say thank you very much for joining with me. You guys have stayed with me the whole time. I've given you lots of information. I will get this recording out to you, and go forth and show your expertise by writing blogs and putting them on your website. You won't regret it. Once you get into the process, you will really love it. Thank you so much for your kind words, guys. Fiona, I'm glad you find them very informative. I spend a lot of time researching and making sure that I know what I'm talking about. So I really appreciate that. Guys, have a fantastic day, and I really look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.